On the gladiatorial planet of Outreach, creatures are brought from every corner of known space, and sometimes even unknown. Each one is placed in the arena to take place in the fighting. This, of course, delights the core species as a spectacle, as only true entertainment is all they care about nowadays. Well, that and the hearty profits from the gambling, of course. This has led to wealth and control over all species that partake. Each of the losing species lose ships, stations, technical knowledge, and even planets due to poor betting. Betting that always seems to favor the house, and everyone figured that the games were rigged somehow, but enough officials had become rich or indebted to the core species where they couldn't actually question this anymore. On a hot day, a very hot day, the crowd was told that they were to receive a special treat. A species unseen in the arena was being sent in. These bipeds, called humans, had been captured from their home planet. An entire airframe of them had been taken from their planet. It had been brought intact to the planet with all contents and personnel, and now the contents are currently piled up in the arena. Everyone gathered as supplies from the captured plane are simply left in the center, some still being dropped off. Piles of green fabric cylinders and strange fabric sacks sit as personnel are brought into the arena. They all seem to look around once they pass the massive doors, and they look as though they're confused. Of course, this would be correct because no one had seen them before. They had heard the rumors, but they hadn't seen them, and of course this species had never been to this planet. This only lasted for a moment as the crowd heard several of the bipeds, all dressed similarly for some reason, with a few exceptions, giving orders to the others, waving their arms wildly. Without a moment of hesitation, they all seemed to be running towards the bag. They seemed to know which one belongs to who simply at a glance. As these humans scramble, the announcement goes out, proclaiming that these humans will now face their first challenges. The humans, all still in a strange brown and green uniform, continue to locate their belongings and then begin to pull items out. As they did, it seems as though they were moving their bags. These cylindrical green bags were placed in a circle around them as though they're setting up some sort of perimeter. The challenger for the human are a group of Ricardos. At the sound of this name, the crowd began to cheer. This is when a massive metal door opened, similar to the one the humans just walked through, and they looked as several large canines are pushed out with electric shocks, some of them turning around, snapping at those that are zapping them. These hounds are the size of horses, each with 3 tails that seem to move independently of each other, not as though they're dog tails, no. Though they are covered in fur, they move almost like snakes. Counting up real quick, the humans could see 24 of these massive dogs coming out, and the humans definitely take notice of what they're seeing. As the humans begin to fall back into their hasty protection, blades and shields and bludgeons of all sides are tossed down from the ramparts into the arena. The dogs seem to notice these coming and avoid them, occasionally picking up a shield with their manipulative tails as though getting ready to defend themselves. Yet these hounds didn't attack. No, they circled looking for an opening, but they couldn't find one. Everyone looked at the arrangement of the humans as they laid down behind those cloth cylinders and their own packs. All of them in a circular formation, all facing out, all keeping their eyes in every single direction. The humans just seemed to sit and wait. This, of course, made the crowd angry as everybody wanted to see blood and death and violence. Everyone wanted to see the most dangerous pack hunters tear these humans apart, but both sides seemed to wait. On the outside of the formation, the alpha of the pack simply watched on intently as it realized that there was new meat. She realized this as her stomach growled, but the hunger was not going to make her do something stupid. She watched as some of the new meat seemed to motion towards her. She was confused. The lack of action was making the crowd very agitated. So agitated, in fact, they began starting to banging their hands or claws or tendrils against something and demanding repayment as they expected a fight, and now they're just getting a demonstration on how these pups move and how the humans seem to be able to hold their formation. That is when another door on the far side began to open. It opened slow as the metal creaked. Everybody looked and could see a single creature come out. It was a mix between a crab, a lobster, and a scorpion, and it crawled out slow. The hounds that were circling immediately stopped their circles and backed away. The humans looked up as they could see a 21-foot tall crustacean that seemed to be very, very angry. The crowd saw this monstrosity and cheered as the fight will have to begin now. This is a very vicious being and they knew it. They watched as the humans changed their formation, moving most to face the new threat, but never, ever exposing their rear. The alpha of the hounds sent out a large woof, and all the pack returned to it as fast as possible, at least most of it. It was clear that the pack wanted the humans to face this creature instead of them. The alpha stood silent with the pack around it and watched as a single one of the humans seemed to get up and remove some of its outer garments. No, it wasn't garments. It was gear. Just as it was ready to run, strange sounds came out. Odd projectiles arced overhead and landed on the crustacean, bursting into smoke of all colors. That is the moment the human ran, only holding a single device in his hand. Another round of arching projectiles moved. Some seemed to explode, while others turned into mini suns halfway there. The human's run did not stop. He did not turn. Instead, he headed straight towards the creature. As he did, the creature suddenly seemed to notice him in the confusion and began to swing its massive claws. In that moment, the youngest of the pack ran up and tried to bite the claw. The alpha realized what had happened. Hunger had taken over this young one, and it was desperate for anything. Yet try as he might, he could not penetrate its hard shell. In fact, the shell seemed to give way just a little bit, as though it was absorbing the strike. Yet it did get the creature's attention, and that's all the human needed. As the creature yelled in frustration of this large pup holding on to its claw and just not letting go, the human tossed something into the open maw. Instinctively, the creature felt it in its mouth and closed its mouth, but before it could even swallow, the grenade exploded. The shock blew the creature's mind. After the muffled thump, as the crustacean falls, it sprays what's left of its mouth all over the place, even coming down on the young man that made the run. The young man, thoroughly disgusted, barely wiped his face as he flipped the creature off to celebrate as the humans all cheered. Then everything went quiet all of a sudden. The hound that actually helped him stood next to the human who was actually still on his butt at the moment. At first, the human thought, crap, I didn't even bring a knife. I am so screwed. And then, surprisingly, the hound simply licked the goop off the man's face and then off the rest of his head. The crowd was in a frenzy as they had not expected this, and yet they still wanted the two packs to tear at each other. Instead, the human simply stood up, looked the hound in the eyes, stuck its hand out for a little bit, and realizing that the human was not going to touch it in a bad way, smack it, punch it, or anything like that, the human just simply gave it a small scratch. A scratch that the hound enjoyed as the human simply said, "Thanks, pup, I appreciate that." The alpha approached the human standing there, but was very wary, being very slow, trying to show it wasn't going to attack. A few humans seemed to stand up as well, turned towards the alpha, walked to it, but stopped short and let the pack walk up to them. Yet, as that happened, every human heard a sound that was absolutely unmistakable to human ears. Even over the crowd that was still cheering and yelling, they could hear the unmistakable sound of a stomach rumbling because they needed food. In just a few moments, all the humans who had simply looked at each other, barely spoke, had grabbed some blades that were on the ground, some blades from their own packs, and began to dismantle the carcass of the crustacean. Aiming specifically at the joints, and with a little bit of effort, the humans separated the claw and two of the legs from the creature. They then proceeded to reach in, grab the meat, and rip it out violently from inside the creature. This spectacle made any aquatic viewers either vomit or pass out. With the meat out of the actual shell, the humans simply called over the hounds, though these dogs couldn't understand what they were saying, but they understood the motions. They moved slowly, hesitantly, and approached, but they could actually see the humans backing off. For some reason, the humans didn't want to share. The hounds were not sure if they were going to even want to eat this thing. I mean, it did try to kill them, and what's going on, but the moment the hounds got their teeth into the flesh, they immediately recognized it as food and tore it to pieces. The alpha waited calmly, only eating when everyone else had their fill of not only the claw in those two legs, no, they snapped off all the other legs and the other claw. They would have ripped the rest of it open, but it turned out the humans were getting very tired. As the alpha ate, it could hear one commanding the area. Neither she nor the humans knew what in the hell they were saying, but it was clear that this was the one in charge. The alpha, even with a mouthful of food, growled at the idea of the one who forced them into this arena. That is when the alpha actually had to jump. There was a loud sound that she didn't know what was going on, but it was almost deafening, deep but loud. She turned over quick with all the rest of the pack, and they could see a human standing there with a very large piece of metal that seemed to be smoking just a little bit. It was raised up towards the Schmeckel in charge, a Schmeckel that is now missing its head along with most of its upper torso. The marksman kept the weapon up as though they were expecting this creature to stand up again. The man that was next to him said, "Nice shot. Too bad you could only get one bullet out of your pack so far." The marksman lowered his Beretta 50 caliber and said, "Just like it was a good thing Schmitty was able to find that grenade, right?" Across all systems that watched the arenas, they couldn't believe it. Not only were humans able to take out one of the fiercest predators, an unbeatable predator to most, but now they have tamed the most dangerous pack animal known. Then again, they look at the humans and they wonder if this is the most dangerous pack animal they've ever known. Across the holonet, everybody watched as the humans and the new freed Ricardos exited the arena through the door still left open by the tail of the crustacean. Many fans in the arena started to panic as they had no idea what these humans were actually capable of. All they knew is with one explosive, they had taken down the most dangerous animal. With one shot of something, they didn't even know what. They had killed one of the most important beings in the known universe. Along with that, they had tamed some of the most dangerous creatures. It was to the point that they would walk up to the most dangerous pack animal and scratch them behind the ear like they were nothing but pets. Many now not only feared at the idea that the humans were able to exit the arena under their own volition, and now they had their own gear. They were able to take down something so dangerous, and now they tamed something. What the hell are humans anyway? Hello everybody, this is Syntax. Thank you for joining me today on this short story. Now before I go, I need to say that today's winner is Chris Dixon. And I also need to send out some giant thank yous to the supporters of this channel, and those would be Prozac and Pancakes, Sir, SS Demon, MTF Guard, Erica Gem, Guardian Sage, Brian Kemp, The Lockeen, Joseph Blosh, and Douglas Scarborough. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntext, punching out.